there was some man, I don't even know his YouTube name, and I'm not going to even quote his YouTube name. He came up under my video. I believe I did the video today. Over 12, I think it was like over 12 hours ago I did it. I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. If I am, my bad. He came and put up under my video, and he made a long list of comments. The comment is still there. And he said, first and foremost, there were white people that didn't have slaves. There were a portion of so-called white people had slaves, but he failed to clear up one thing. But before I get to all of that, the clearing up, I'm just gonna go walk through the list of what he was saying. He put in the comment section, and he said something about the Dutch. And he said that this nation of people, I think it was the Dutch, I believe, that went and sold, they forced Islam on I'm assuming he's saying the Israelites, I'm assuming, and they enslaved them, and he was just saying some other stuff about the Dutch enslaved them. And then he said the Egyptians sold their own people, which I'm going to clear that up. He said the Egyptians sold their own people. So I'm not a genius. I don't consider myself a genius, but I consider myself, I believe in my heart that I understand the Bible good enough to keep people from pulling the wool over me. It's not that I'm boasting or anything, but it's just certain things. You know how you hear certain things, even though you may not be knowledgeable about it, but you know it's just something about it ain't resonating. They making excuses for it. But he said that he said the Egyptians had slaves. But see, what he looking at and he thinking that because the Egyptians were dark-skinned people, he thinking that those people automatically is linked to us, is linked to the so-called African-American people. But he must forget that the Egyptians is a whole different people. Because think about it. Exodus chapter 11 and verse 7 clearly make the distinction between the Egyptians and Israel. He clearly make that distinction. He said that ye may know that the Lord has put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. Israel were the Hebrew Israelite nation that was enslaved by the Egyptians. So the Egyptians were dark-skinned people that came from Ham. So even though the Egyptians and the Hebrews look similar, but they not the same people. That's what they don't get. You see what I'm saying? The Egyptians had, and the Hebrews, even though they look similar, which means they kind of look alike, but they're not the same people. Similar means you look almost like you look the same. You can't really tell the difference. You see what I'm saying? Oh, he didn't look this way. But that's the part that he didn't clarify. So when you make sure when you make a comment according to that. Now I can only go by what the Bible say. Now you're gonna have to prove that, because the Bible says in what's that scripture in Isaiah 42? And I think it's Um, it says, bring your cause, bring forth your strong reasoning. Bring forth your strong reasoning if you're going to say that, if you're going to make a statement. Because I went back and I made sure I read what I read, and I know I didn't misread anything. So what he don't understand too, let me clear the other thing up, because he said that there were certain whites that didn't own slaves or whatever, and there were certain whites, a vast number of them did. That's what he was saying, like thinking he gonna just throw me off with that. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just clarifying what he put out under my comment, under the comment section. So, what would let's see, yeah. Damn, I forgot it'll come back to me because, but while I'm thinking about it, yeah. I did say the Egyptians and the Israelites look similar, but they're not the same people, because the Egyptians came from Ham. They are the Canaanite. They're a whole different nation. And the Israelite, go read that in Exodus 11:7, and you're going to see the difference between the children of Israel and the Egyptians. Because the Egyptians, you have to remember, the Egyptians enslaved the Israelites. Then once they did that, then the Bible says in, I think that's Amos, some part of Amos in the Old Testament, it says, you have sold the Grecians, the Hebrews unto the Greeks. So the Hamites sold the Hebrews unto the Greeks, which were the Greeks were the so-called Caucasian people. Now, when he say, this is the part I wanted, it didn't come back to me now. What was that? When the what was that? It's right, be right on my tip, and then it jumped away. The Bible says that whether you had so-called white people enslaved other people or not, but see, you have to understand, those same white people is a descendant of the same people, because they, even though they want to say, oh, because they had nothing to do with it, that doesn't mean that they got to pay. Just like us, we wasn't there when our forefathers disobeyed God, but because we're living today, we are paying for what they done, even though there was a portion of a so-called black people, Hispanic and Native American people, that did not transgress the commandments of God. Although we all are born as the Israelites were born in sin, but that still didn't mean that we didn't have to pay for what they did. Because we wasn't there when our forefathers was breaking the commandments of the Most High God, bowing down to a golden calf, and putting other gods before God. Then but we still are those people. We still are those people, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, versus the modern day Hispanic, Black, and Native American people are the same people. Because the Bible said there is no end of all the people. So the point I'm making is, we all are still the product of those people. You may look and say, oh, and I think that's what he was getting around to. Well, you can't blame every so-called white people for what certain white people done. You're gonna put all so-called white people in that category. And I knew where he was going with that. No, it's not about that. It's just about God says that because of what you did. It's just like if you go in a store, bro, right? And I invite 20 people, and I say, don't worry about this food bill. I got you. I got you. Don't worry about it. I got you. Whatever you want to order, get what you want, this and that. I got it. It's all on me. Get the drinks, everything is on me. Now, if I make that statement and then lie about it to myself, and then I leave out the restaurant, and everybody looking around and saying, where's the dude where's the guy that said he was gonna pay? He left and ran off and went home to the crib, a house or whatever, you know. And what the people gonna do in the store, they gonna want their money, right? In the restaurant, they gonna want their money, right? Say, well, the guy said he was gonna pay, he left. So guess what? They gonna bring the bill out there, and somebody else is gonna be responsible for that bill, right? Because more than likely, if you don't, if the person was gonna be responsible for the bill, but they refused to pay it and left out, guess who's gonna pay that bill? They're gonna bring the bill. They're gonna hold somebody at that table reliable for that bill. So we are like that bill. Like our forefathers, we are paying for the iniquity of our forefathers, right? So they not here to pay for it, right? So we're living right now, right? We live in the slum and in the ghettos, right? So guess what? That bill, we paying for that bill that they didn't pay, which means they didn't keep the commandments. Does that make sense? We paying for that bill. It's just like people say, well, I tell you what, she owe you $75, right? Okay, don't worry about it. I'm going to pay for it. Other people say, well, look, I got to have this bill paid. Somebody got to pay this bill, or somebody going to get in trouble. And then somebody said, well, I tell you what, I got it. I'll just take care of the bill myself. So that's like punishment to God for not pay, the bill that our forefathers didn't pay was not keeping the commandments. That's the bill that they didn't pay. That means they freely didn't keep the commandments. So therefore, we are paying for that bill. And that bill is that we are put under the curses. That's the punishment for the bill not being paid. And that bill that's not being paid was keeping the commandments. And so because God say, your forefathers didn't do it, they refuse to keep the commandments. Now, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to punish you for the sins of your father. And that's part of the consequences. So when this man put up under my comment and said what he said, he didn't do his research right. Because I went back and I read all of that stuff. I went up and looked at the Compact Bible Dictionary quote. Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about the 96 years before the flood, and one of the 8 persons that lived through the flood, he became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians and the Ethiopians and the Libyans and the Canaanites were the ones that were different and from the Israelites. But it can be proven throughout the Bible. I'm just going to stop it right there, and I'm going to see y'all later. And we're going to come back, and we're going to chop it up a bit later. And what can I name this video? Yeah, okay. The clear up the blacks sold their own people. Blacks sold their own people. Clearing up the lie that blacks sold their own people. That's the title.